most of the drug money is laundered by these major banks. I mean, it's been proven, and they pay small fines. They don't ever, if I go rob a bank, I get put in jail. They launder millions and millions of dollars of drug money. They pay a fraction of that in a fine. Billions, yeah, exactly. It's
exactly.
Billions.
Well, remind me to send you the Credit Suisse indictment, because right now they're working with the DOJ, and Credit Suisse was accused in this indictment of actually laundering money from the Iranian state banks into this country. They would literally change the bar and the transit codes and change the routing numbers to get that money in here. And this is basically what the indictment said, and anybody wants a copy of that indictment, I'd be happy to share it with them.
Well, I think we're going to end it there. That was a lot of information to chew on. I really thank you for coming in.
We haven't even scratched the tip of the iceberg.
Exactly. You're going to be on the 10th for
on
2
the 10th
hours?
for 2 hours, yeah. And we'll be taking phone calls, my understanding is. So
there you go. So that's going to be, August 10th, 2 hours with Dave Krieger.
Starting at noon.
The book is Clouded Titles. And let me tell you, I've started reading it, and it's got... I went about 50 pages in, and then I started skimming around because I knew I was going to be interviewing Dave just to kind of get the juxtaposition of the book. And let me tell you, a lot of information here, a lot of practical information, and it's not, there's a lot of weird acronyms thrown out, but you explain them all, you keep people informed as it goes on. And let me tell you, for $40, you could really give yourself hundreds of dollars worth of information, a great education. If you can get over in Chicago to his seminar, let's put that graphic up again. He's got his seminar coming up. What are the dates for that?
Well, it's August 18th and 19th. It's a Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
You can get into Chicago. It's at Country Inn and Suites. They have continental breakfast in the morning, so you can stay overnight. They've got decent room rates for us at the seminar. You just have to tell them you're attending the workshop.
8 to 5.
8 to 5, both days. And I'll tell you what, the last one that we did went way over. We were there till like 6:30 at night.
Answering questions.
Because I will stay there as long as people need to get this information in their heads. Well, I know you'll hit overload after 8 hours. That's why we have to kind of keep this. But, this is an opportunity right now that doesn't come very often. And so, those of you who are out there that care, that really care about helping other people, this is a seminar you should go to.
Well, just talking to you for the last 20, 30 minutes or so was overload for me. Just there's so much information here, and that's how it's been designed. The system has been designed to keep people stupid, to keep them dumbed down, and you put so many pieces of paper in front of, the normal guy, and he just wants to get his house. He wants to get in, he wants to close, he wants to get the keys, and he's not sure what he's signing, and then that paper just goes out the door, and who knows where it goes. It's been securitized, it's used to fund wars, it's used to do all kinds of stuff that it shouldn't be doing. So hope you got the book. That's our show for today. If you're not a member of PrisonPlanet.tv, if you're watching this on YouTube, it costs a lot of money to put this together. It's, we got to get guests in here, we got lights, we got employees. Rob Jacobson out there, he's a great editor and great sound guy. A lot of people out here putting stuff together. Join today, your 15-day free trial. We've got the movies, we've got special reports, we've got the nightly news, Alex Rants, plus the Daily Show. And don't forget, we also just launched a few months ago, PlanetInfowars.com. It's our new social network. And there's a little section right there, Ask Alex, where you can actually send your questions to Alex. And speaking of Ask Alex, we actually have, you thought it was over, we still got at least another 20 more minutes of InfoWars Nightly News. We got a 20-minute Ask Alex coming up right now, and then that's going to be the end of our show. I'm your host, Rob Dew. Thanks to Paul Joseph Watson for doing the news portion tonight. Thanks for Dave Krieger coming in and educating us a little bit on these clouded titles out there, because that's information we do need to know. Be sure you become a member of PrisonPlanet.tv if you're able to. We'd love to have you, and join the family at PlanetInfowars.com. See ya.
I'm Christy Hightower here from Planet InfoWars. I'm here with Alex Jones, answering your questions from the Ask Alex group on PlanetInfowars.com. So go check out that group if you have questions for him. We're actually finishing the marathon version. So
yeah, I thought I could do 50 in one session. It's now the third session. From now on, we'll just do 10 at a time.
Yeah, we got to keep.
Let's hit the last 7 or 8 here.
All right, he's got a haircut to go do. So
I look like a hippie. It's time to get this haircut. We've already started taping this twice, and people call or. It doesn't matter.
All right.
Transmitting worldwide, PlanetInfowars.com.
Absolutely. The first question, well, one of many actually. Dollar Bill Kill 1984, that's the username. He says, Alex, I know you're familiar with the JFK 11110, which JFK enacted, which granted the Treasury the right to issue U.S. dollars backed by silver.
Actually, where did that go? I had one.
I know. I was going to say, I was looking around in the studio. Somebody said you had one.
No, I haven't. I haven't read these questions yet. I guess you could have told me that one. No, I don't have. Who knows where it went?
There was a rumor that we had one at one point.
We do. But what I do have is a $100 trillion Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe is where the Federal Reserve would like to take us. Weimar Republic and beyond level in.
I like the stone.
Hyperinflation.
Wow. Well, he asked, was JFK trying to fix the department problem or simply eliminate a foreign occupation of the financial sort? And how might the Fed have used the CIA then to kill him 5 months after?
Well, I mean, he did a lot of stuff. He said, we're taking the troops back from Vietnam. They came to Kennedy with Operation Northwoods. They wanted to stage terror attacks, blame it on the Russians and the Cubans, start a big war.
And he wasn't having it.
And he said, no, we're not going to do that. They wanted to kill U.S. citizens in theaters and stuff and blame it on foreign enemies, kind of like they just did.
Wow, interesting. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, that's all in Operation Northwood. So Kennedy, who wasn't perfect, kind of freaked out and said, L.L. Lemonster, you're crazy, you're fired. Head of the CIA, you're fired. So he made a lot of enemies. But the last straw was he was going to start issuing hundreds of billions of dollars of already issued, but he was going to reissue it because it's gone out of circulation, Lincoln greenbacks from the Civil War. And he started with $5 bills. They've got a red seal on them. Doesn't say Federal Reserve note. It says U.S. note. And it's a fiat currency, but it's U.S. government, so there's no debt created to create it. He was like, wait, we pay foreign banks interest to just print money? He was smart enough to understand money's just a mode of exchange.
Right.
And you're supposed to control it, you know, so that as things expand, you print more, but you don't print too much or, you know.
Inflation and all.
Exactly. And so that was one of the final things he did. I mean, it was like a month after he signed that, they blew his head off. And they did it where everybody in the world knew the government did it, but then they just told the public, no, a lone guy did that. So that's to answer that question.
Interesting. The JFK, actually, the assassination's November, 11th? Forgive me, I'm probably a little off on that. Coming up, are we going to do any specials on it?
Yeah, I think it's like the 50th anniversary, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a while. It's a big one. Well,
and they've said no one's allowed to be there who doesn't agree. So there's no free speech, so we have to go.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. We have to show our faces for sure. Well, moving on then, a fan of 2012 asks, I have a question pertaining to 9/11. Obviously, this is a little dated, but how did the theory of Flight 93 shot down, stated in the final cut of Loose Change, become more popular than the theory that Flight 93 landed in Cleveland, which was the second edition? Why is the former theory considered more plausible now than the latter?
You know, I produced one of the Loose Changes.
Okay.
The third one. There's been like 5 of them now.
Yeah.
And we just wanted to go in the third one with things that could be totally proven. But I didn't have, a lot of control over what actually got put into the final product. I think it's a good film. And it asks important questions, but we don't know exactly what happened. We just know the official story's been proven to be a lie.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of like, there's a lot of different examples out there. We know government staged these things. We know that they had a motive in this. We know what they've told us isn't true. We know the hijackers were trained at U.S. bases. All I know is that the first responders.
Anything then on Flight 93? Have you ever read anything about them landing? I mean,
Yeah, no, that was in the first Loose Change. They talked about. It's a very complex area. They talked about it with different tail numbers being landed at another airport, which did indeed happen.
Right.
And the people were taken off, put in a NASA hangar. But again. Then I talked to state police and others that said they saw the jet flying and F-16s were firing missiles. And then wreckage was over 8 miles, and the first responders said there was just a crater. There was no plane parts.
Right.
So in a black op like this, they confuse it so much that no one is able to ever find out what the truth is. We just know the official story is a lie.
That's a good point. Well, there seems to be, from Miss Lydia, this next question comes to you, and she says, there seems to be a general view that we can find candidates who have our opinions, that back our views. But what can we do to ensure that those running for office get a fair election? I mean, just like in this Ted Cruz, obviously those black boxes in Houston that Richard was talking about earlier on the show didn't come through for Dewhurst. So,
well, from all the experts I've talked to who, like Bev Harris and others who are real experts on how fraud works, when there's landslides, the fraud is hard to operate because it's not unified. There's certain areas where they've got old-fashioned fraud in where the vote counters are just lying about what the results were. There's other systems where they've got machines that skim or they've got machines that flip. But landslides are hard because people aren't going to buy it when you cheat it. But, I mean, what's the question specifically?
I'm sorry. Well, essentially, she's asking, how do we keep them from being sabotaged? How do we keep these votes clean?
Well, that's the big $64 million question.
The answer is 42.
What you've got to do is have it all under local control, counted at the local precinct level, and then publicly posted. Hand counted at micro levels, put out in a public forum so that it can then all be publicly counted and put together.
Is that something we can unite about?
Well, that's the old-fashioned way. That's the way freer elections are done. Now, then they can just threaten people or buy votes like Mexico, but Mexico does it that way. Public rolls with a picture next to who you are. It's on the little local precinct level, and then those are publicly posted. And it's sad the U.S. has one of the most known corrupt systems. It's like we think we're free and have a good system. It's known to be a complete fraud. Some areas have good voting, other areas don't. More than half the country is under fraudulent systems. But what happens is, this is a very complex question, you need to have recall systems via petition to then have, where the petition states that there will be a recall of the electronic voting machines under state law, and that recall election will be done by paper ballot. And so then you remove the machines.
Didn't they do something like that with the hanging chads or hanging in Florida?
Yeah, that was all another fraud too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty, but how would you question though? How would you start one of those petitions? Like, I mean, aside from just going to your local grocery store with a sheet of paper and asking people to sign it, is there any sort of, I don't know, plan you could put into effect on that?
Well, I mean, I can hardly get the light bulbs changed around here, so I'm putting out general ideas for people out there. I mean, there are systems that are known to be very hard to manipulate, and it's the system of liberty where you have little local control, and it's a system of where it's publicly counted and publicly posted.
All right. People just need to take advantage.
And then those numbers are added up where everybody can see it happen.
And verify it. Well, this next one, forgive me, I can't say your username properly, probably. Noe D, sorry. Says, both my parents were involved in politics before I was born, and they all have told me stories about undercover infiltration of various movements by security and law enforcement, and you've touched on that a lot. And I've seen undercover cops myself incite violence. So how do you advise dealing with such people? You mentioned actually on the radio show like a couple weeks ago about how these guys like would jump out of the bushes and light stuff on fire and then accuse you of doing it, and you call them out on being, special forces or whatever it was.
Well, no, the guy ran off. And then they had the military show up at the set time to basically blame us for it.
Yeah.
By the way, this is not product placement, but it is. I am so busy. Pollen Burst Plus, available at InfoWarsTeam.com.
It really is delicious.
Which is endorsed by yours truly. They've got my ugly mug on the cover. This is the new berry currant flavor. And it is awesome, but actually I meant to have this earlier and my throat is dry, so I'm just impromptu product placing right now.
Well, good. While you take a sip, then I'll continue a little bit with the question. It says, how would you advise dealing with these people, like those engaged in information gathering, provoking violence, those that hide their true agendas? How do you propose?
Well, they always try to get militias that are constitutional and a good thing to meet in secret, so that somebody can try to get voted in as the leader who's really an FBI informant or agent. That's what the federal